Hello, my name is He Who Is in the Water. Wanted to talk about the Twilight of the Republic pre-release. My schedule actually worked out. I was able to play 2 of these, so thought it'd be kind of fun to talk through the events, how they went, and a little bit about how the deck build went, and kind of what some takeaways I have from the format are, or just some general thoughts about that. So, first one I went to was at Fortress of Gaming down in Colony. I've never been there before. It was a very, very nice store. Really spacious, very cool. So it was fun to find someplace different, although it was like a 40-ish minute drive for me. So like not, I can't make their weeklies anyway, but like, I'm not gonna, I foresee myself only returning for events such as this. Not looking to be a weekly participant for that. So this pool that I had largely did not really have any good heroism cards. The 2 good rares that I had were down here in the Invisible Hand and Malevolence. Let's just do a quick run through of what's in this deck. I've got a droid deployment, an OOM, series officer, Dendups Loyalist, Clone Heavy Gunner, 2 Vanguard droid bombers, a super battle droid, 2 of the boldest recon commandos you've ever seen, a B1 attack battle platform, a volunteer soldier, a reckless torrent, a trade federation shuttle, I don't know, this picture quality is not great. I do need to get a new phone. So Vulture Interceptor Wing, that's the name of that card. Dwarf Spider Droid, an Asajj Ventress, a Droid Echo Security, a Savage Oppress, I'm not sure. I'll get there in the show, we'll figure it out. A Heavy Persuader Tank, Aura Sing, Battle Droid Legion, Devastating Gunship, and the Invisible Hand Malevolence. And then for the events over here, I've got Daring Raid, Disruptive Burst, 2 Perilous Positions, a Lethal Crackdown, and an Unshakable Will. Nice and foil too. But so I didn't really have good heroism cards, and my rares were pretty weak on the whole. Not pictured here was like some Sandhills, and For the Republics. I did have 1 Rush Clovis, which that card interests me for constructed, and I was a little bit tempted by that. But it just kind of struck me that aggression was my deepest color, and the main draw that I had to Vigilance here were the 2 Perilous Positions and the Malevolence. Malevolence is just very strong at stabilizing you immediately and then on following turns with the Restore. And Perilous Position struck me just from looking at the spoiler sheet as like one of the best ways to like interact with opposing leaders. And I also had the Small that was pretty beefy, so it was like a nice reason to be in villainy. The green and yellow were fine splashes, but I really was just sold that like Perilous Position was the best complement. There are a couple filler cards in here, like this Trade Federation shuttle is pretty bad. Lethal Crackdown was medium, Devastating Gunship is okay. This Vulture Interceptor Wing was pretty interesting. I don't know about that card going forward. But in round 1, I played versus Jamie, and she was playing a Dooku Blue deck, and that one went pretty well for me. The B1 attack battle platform that I had on turn 2, it was able to chunk in for like 10 damage before it was able to be profitably dealt with by her. So that just set me up to have a pretty good turn where I was able to flip Maul, and in response to me flipping Maul, she played the Vigilance 2-cost event that gives a unit Sentinel and +2/+2, which was pretty good, so I just like didn't attack with Maul at all. But I also had Malevolence coming down that turn, and then the following turn, like Malevolence and Maul both being able to attack when she didn't have any Sentinels was just too much. That 13 ball, I think, was Xaxes. So that one went pretty well, and I do think is going to be like largely reflective of how Count Dooku works in this format. The games with him are not going to be close. Like you get to your crazy end game where you've got the 7-drop 5/9 that's just going to deal a ton of damage and ramp out your more expensive threats, or you're going to get run over before you get to that point. I think Dooku's going to be pretty black and white with that. In round 2, I played versus a gentleman named Pablo, and he was playing Ahsoka Green. And I was really slow. I didn't have a 2-drop for that after I mulliganed. And he had some really good upgrades. I believe it was 2 General Blades and a Mace Windu's lightsaber. So his Ahsoka was incredibly threatening to me, because one thing I just kind of feel about this form is like, you just cannot kill leaders. It's very, very difficult to kill them, particularly if they have more than 3 power. The 3 power leaders like Jango and Quinlan Voss, I think, are more manageable, but like the bigger ones are just really hard to get into. So I was able to manage the Ahsoka pretty well with a back-to-back turn of going Perilous position into Malevolence. Was just barely able to like keep her from attacking me and killing me. But it did really highlight like the bad nature of my curve over here. Like, this is just not. These bold recon commandos are good, and this, like, I guess these 4 are okay, but these, I just felt like there's no good 2-drops in this format except for what my opponent plays. Like, my opponent's 2-drops are just like way better than whatever I have going on. And it's kind of like a big structural issue of, I think, how I constructed this deck. Like, I have some things like the Vanguard droid bombers that like want me to be more aggressive, but what I do actually have going for me is like this top end right here. And Invisible Hand was actually like crucial in that game of getting me lethal when I needed it, because it does just care about separatists. So I had a devastating gunship, and I think it was the Vulture Wing here in play as well on the final turn, and I was able to, not for full damage, but they can each exhaust at that time for an additional point of damage when the Invisible Hand attacks, and that was able to get me through before Ahsoka murdered me. So that was pretty cool to like actually have like a game where Invisible Hand mattered, because the rest of these games I felt it was pretty mopey. Malevolence was awesome, but Invisible Hand was kind of like, if we're getting here, then like it's a big thing to win the game, but it's not even that great at winning the game. So at that point I was 2-0. There was only 3 rounds for this event, and in round 3 I played versus a gentleman named Mike on Anakin Green, and that was horrendous. I was just miserably outclassed by his deck. He had a Batch Brothers, and that traded for half of his Batch Brothers traded for my B1 attack battle platform. And then he was able to use the other half of the Batch Brothers, put 4 damage on Maul when I flipped, and then did the rest of the 2 damage with the ETB of the LAAT gunship. So like my leader traded with half of a Batch Brothers and an ETB on his 6-drop. And it was just, and so like then Anakin's just coming into play completely uncontested, and just destroyed me. So in that game I had reasonable space pressure, but like that's just not necessarily a good thing versus Anakin. I don't really know how you're supposed to beat Anakin, to be quite honest. I thought these perilous positions would help. I did not really. Malevolence was also something I would have liked to have drawn in that game. I can't recall if I did, but again, did kind of my inability to play out that game effectively did highlight that like I'm half a control deck and half an aggressive deck. I don't really know how I could structure this differently with my pool to place better to the late game strength that I had. I would have liked to, just have better quality 2-drops, but like I'm not even sure what those would have been for this deck. It's not clear to me, but we did have some like reasonable inevitability here. But some stuff like this volunteer soldier, I could have probably played literally anything else over that and been fine. Battle Droid Legion was woefully unimpressive. I kind of can't believe that's an uncommon. I feel at common, you still just like would not care about this at all. maybe I'm underrating the when defeated thing on making 3 tokens to like keep going with your exploit stuff. But if you have your 9-drop in play and then you're doing stuff afterwards, then you probably just should have been doing something else with your time. But yeah, so this deck was okay. 2-1 felt like a very appropriate record for this. I was just a little bit frustrated because I played, because it was only 3 rounds, I played 3 more games against Mike on Anakin Green, and I lost all of them. I don't remember the details of those as well, but it really was like, okay, yeah, I cannot do anything in this matchup. Nothing you do matters. Or it felt that way. I have plenty to learn, as always. So there's obviously something I could be missing about the format, but Anakin seems very difficult to answer. So on to the second deck that I played. Then I went to Prerelease at Clifton Park, Flipside. And yeah, again, the picture quality has something to do with my phone, but like Star Wars Unlimited database doesn't do a great job of limited decks, so I kind of just have been rolling with this. But like before, let me just do a quick rundown of what is in the deck here. We've got 2 Phase 1 Clone Troopers, a Ryloth Militia, or a Public Tactical Officer, and then a Steadfast Senator and 2 Warrior Drones, Captain Taicho, 2 Infantry of the 212th, a 501st Liberator, Trade Federation Shuttle, Subjugating Starfighter, 2 Satine Kriz, a Shakti, Daughter of Dathomir, Armored Saber Tanks, or 2 Armored Saber Tanks, Another Republic, Felta Supply Frigate, ATTE Vanguard, Bactoid Spider Droid, 2 Republic Defense Carriers, a Hello There, a Disruptive Burst, a Perilous Position, Take Captive, and a Blocking the Way? I think that's what that's called. Yeah, that's the card I was trying to reference before. So, again, my pool here had very weak rares, including 2 of the rare bases, Unmasking the Conspiracy. Kit Fisto was the other rare, which was pretty good. And if I was being more competitive, perhaps I should have done that. But what made me not be competitive is that I opened 2 of this legendary card, Satine Kriz, which is an 06. And it says every unit in play, including your opponent's, gains the ability action, exhaust this, discard cards from an opponent's deck equal to half this unit's remaining HP rounded up. So I get to build a mill deck, and like that was just like unfortunately there's like not too many opportunities around me to play limited for this game, or at least with my schedule either. So I was like, double Satine is like, I gotta try this. Like, I'm never gonna be able to build a mill deck again. I don't really think it's gonna be as viable for constructed, although I could be very wrong about that. So really, once I opened the 2 Satines, I was like locked in. I gotta play blue heroic, and the aggression cards could have been playable, but I felt like the green was the better complement here, both in terms of like Bactoid Spider Droid and like these 2 carriers giving me like some top end that like gives me some immediate stability on the board, as well as 501st Liberator as another bit of healing, and Shakti is just kind of insane if left unchecked. And I also opened Captain Rex, and I thought he was just a great fit for Satine, where he comes down with a lot of toughness, and more importantly, his front side means that if I just have some like low cost units, I can shore up kind of the awkwardness of my curve by just having 2 resources left to play and getting in there. And we actually had some funny situations come up where like I would attack with Steadfast Senator or Satine Kriz just to have attacked for a unit to let Rex activate his ability. So that was pretty cool. I will just say like straight up, this deck was like, it was definitely a more casual attempt at fun here. I was kind of going into this thinking that like, okay, I learned from the first day's experiences, like Anakin's really the thing that I need to be focusing on, because I also saw other people around me like doing very dirty things with Anakin. So I was like kind of thinking either need to be building that myself or have a very clear strategy to try and beat him. And this deck doesn't really do any of that, to be entirely honest. So, round one, I played versus my good friend Ben, who was playing a Watt Tambor red deck, and that was pretty cool. I did not damage him a single time. However, I did mill him out, and he was gonna start taking 6 a turn at the end there for sure. But Kit Fisto was just a really big beating, and certainly gave me some buyer's remorse of like, maybe I should have just built the Kit Fisto deck instead. But I don't know, my comments also just were kind of unimpressive. So although we've got some like garbage in this deck, it's like I just did not feel like my comments were good enough for a lot of that anyway. But yeah, Kit Fisto and Savage Oppress were very good from his deck versus me, and I kind of just had very little control over the ground despite getting both of my armored saber tanks into play. The resourcing was just also super awkward, so as we got to that end game, I had to have resourced my 501st Liberator and the ATTE Vanguard and both of these Sentinels. So I was just kind of like hoping to get there and say that I had to manage everything, and that's just not entirely feasible, or not really at all feasible. So that was a pretty convincing loss there as well. But first game, successfully milled my opponent out with Satine. So there's at least like interesting data points here of that, like this probably isn't that surprising for like a 30 card deck format, but like it is like just very feasible to mill with Satine. So that's just like information that I have going forward, that like this is my draw was not that exceptional and I was able to make that happen. That's like good information to have, perhaps not for this event, but for the future, if you are playing limited of this game and do that, can do that. Or perhaps more applicable, at least for me personally, is like if I build a cube, you can put Satine in a cube and like that card's actually gonna like do the thing. It is capable of doing that. And so that was good data to learn from that. In the second round, I played versus another good friend, Matt, on Anakin Green, and yeah, this was I felt bad going into it, and it was worse. Anakin's just very hard to kill, and he punishes you for trying to play to the board to like be ready for the flip turn that he comes in, because then he just like pumps his units and is just crushing you and trading up with his dorky little like Republic Tactical Officer, a card that gave me problems all day. So I'm not really sure like what angle you're supposed to play with that. I felt at least that with this deck, weird as it is, I was like, okay, I can like build out my board and mill him, and then that can be like, that will keep Anakin from getting too out of hand, and then once the damage starts racking up for mill, maybe I can have a better plan and like get like an ATTE Vanguard into play or something like there, and try to work with that. That did not happen because he did some ramping, and then he had Anakin, and he had the previous turn he had put squad support on it, which gives +1/+1 for each trooper you control. And then the final turn of the game, he played the card the Clone Wars, which made him 8 tokens. Also gave me 8 droid tokens, but he got 8 clone tokens from that, and then was able to attack me. In response, I played Captain Typho, which was a really cool synergy in this deck. Being able to play him and give Satine Sentinel was fun, because then my opponent had to kill Satine that turn, most likely, and it kind of insulated me from getting milled out as effectively. But yeah, Clone Wars, pumping up the squad support on Anakin, I got hit for 16 damage in one hit because he has Overwhelm, and that was just like, yeah, I mean, it just not much you can do against that. Like, Anakin's hard enough to kill, but now that he's like a 16, 17, like, cool. Cannot really get into that. So I'm 0-2 at this point. This event is 4 rounds. I did not mean to click that slide. I meant to turn over the piece of paper that I have everything written on. So in round 3, I play versus Darius, and he's also not doing great. So he's trying out a different deck at this time from what he had played in the previous rounds, and he put together a Django red deck. And this started off really bad for me. I got worked over by Clone Diver, just giving my units -2, -0 on attack, and so lost like an infantry of the 212 for just absolutely 0 damage and no value in combination with like a droid deployment. However, the game got a little bit better for me when he sacrificed some of his units or exploited some of his units. Not using the magic words, got to use the try to learn the terminology. He exploited some units and played a Dooku, Count Dooku unit at no value, which was pretty big for me. Like not getting razzle dazzled by his ETB was a big help. And he also played a holdout blaster on the Dooku, which in conjunction with Jango Fett's ability was able to stop me from hitting him as much. But that was kind of, I think, like okay for my deck. Holdout blaster is interesting with Jango, but like I'm not quite sure it was good versus me. And so we kind of exchanged resources and traded off our leaders, and we got into like the mid game or like the end game. And he had just some really unfortunate draws. He drew 2 merciless contests, which is the one where both players defeat a unit or defeat a non-leader unit. And he did get like full value on those, like he did not have a unit in play, so he just got to like edict me twice in a row with that, which was pretty cool. But I also just like had Captain Rex in play and then a Shaak Ti in play, so like it just I think I lost like the Pelta Supply Frigate and then a clone token after that when I attacked with Shaak Ti. So it was very poor timing for those cards, although it was good value. And then the following turn, he drew 2 Breaking In, which is like the Surprise Strike variant for this set. And when you're behind on board and you just didn't have units to deploy, like, okay, I'm getting another attack in with Shaak Ti. Now I'm deploying like another 4 something, whatever. It was just like pretty cleanly over from there due to some unfortunate draws on his part. But I was at the same time somewhat impressed because for all the complaining I'd been doing, not necessarily complaining, but like acknowledging that Anakin is kind of like the top tier leader in this format. I was impressed with Jango and his ability there, and I was like, maybe there's something there. Maybe that's a good way to contain Anakin if you have a little bit more optionality in your pool. You don't have the Anakins, and maybe you want to try to metagame that a little bit. Maybe Jango's pretty good at just like leaving him defenseless, although that requires retaining the initiative, and that's like kind of just how exhausting units work. Like if your units get exhausted, then you just claim the initiative after you play some stuff, and your opponent never really gets to retain, or the person trying to exhaust your units never really gets to keep that train going. It's just like they can do it once pretty efficiently. Yeah, I was able to win that one. Also notably, a big strategic decision I did in this game was instead of playing my Satines, I resourced them, and I ended up winning the game. It was just unbelievable how that worked out. So, yeah, that was unfortunate, but like that's probably like the right thing to do. It's just, Satine is not the competitive card from this set for limited at least. I don't know about constricted. Oh, like 0 power. 0 power is so bad. 1 power makes a world of difference, but actual 0 power is just, it's truly so free for your opponent to kill this whenever they want to, and they just don't have to be that worried about it. Yeah, so then in the final round 4 for this one, this was a 4-round event, still all best of 1. I played versus Mike, who I had played on the first day. So I got to play versus him again, which was nice. He's a very, very pleasant man. And he also had Anakin Green again, and like the vast majority of the same cards, specifically the L8AT gunship, which is just crazy good. That card was extremely impressive. Just a great Flame Tongue Kavu. It just a very, very good card and pretty reasonable to assemble just 1 or 2 synergies and then just like picking off a token. But now I still have a 6 mana 6/5. It's like, that's excellent. So, but it also kind of highlights the issues of playing against Anakin, where the Anakin's activated ability is just so difficult to try and play on board with. Like, my opponent has a Shaak Ti, I have a Shaak Ti. Guess what? He gets to kill my Shaak Ti and his lives. So, like, even when I have somewhat similar cards at power level, just by not having that leader, I'm at a tremendous disadvantage. And Rex is just not really aggressive enough to kind of make up for that. But then again, like racing Anakin just isn't even that good. I also was like, perhaps not, I wouldn't say cocky because I felt pretty good at this point I was going to lose, but like his turn 0 or turn 1 play was just a bare naked Republic attack or tactical officer. And it destroyed me still. Like I was just trying to play into it, and he put a clone cohort onto it, and then clone cohort plus the Anakin pump just killed all of my 3-drops. And similarly like my 4-drops too. So there just was not ever really a window where I was in that game, and it's just so generous the flexibility that Anakin gives you with like playing low power level or lower quality units by just making them so much more of a threat was just very difficult to overcome. So I'm really not sure how you're supposed to do it. Like if you try to be more aggressive in space, then like the Anakin unit just comes out a little bit bigger and probably kills you a little bit faster. So I don't know. And in Sealed in particular, I don't think you can just have a pool where you're like, I'm going to play all space units and just ignore what my opponent does on the ground. You just don't really have that luxury in most pools. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what the play is there. I am, for this deck, I would say I'm pretty happy with how I built it, how it played out. I got to do the thing. I got to mill out my opponents a lot. It's just, now we know, milling out your opponent, it's not very good because they just kind of keep playing the game with the units they have in play, and you have a 4-mana 0/6 and spent a lot of your action economy on doing nothing. So it's really not something I would advise, but it was really fun. And we did successfully get to do the thing. So I think I'm pretty happy with how I built the deck, with that being the goal, to be a Satine Kriz deck. If my goal for this event was to win, I definitely did a poor job, but I'm also not sure what would have been better. Probably a red-green deck, but red-green Rex probably is where I guess I would have ended up. I think also something I learned from both of these events is that the Vigilance cards are really bad. I thought Trade Federation Shuttle might be good. It was not. And then, like, obviously Warrior Drone's not a great deck, but I was really disappointed by, like, Perilous Position just not really being able to effectively control my opponent's board. So, kind of feels like aggression and command are the aspects that you really want to be in for this format, and Vigilance is just really pretty weak to me. There are some okay like vigilance villainy cards. Like in the previous deck, I did like the Devastating Gunship. I thought had some nice moments to shine, and Droideka Security as another good Sentinel that could be somewhat cheated into play. I was pretty impressed with. So there could be some stuff going on there, but on the whole, just did not feel like at any point on the curve we really had something nice to play on rate. So I would advise against that. But the format was pretty fun. I enjoyed the games. My opponents were having fun too. So it was good. It's a good limited format. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever have the opportunity to play again, but I hope that I do. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to talk about for this one. So thanks for watching. See you later.